I think both of us looking at our food now and being like making sure, one, it's not just eating as minimal as possible.
No.
So I think the key now is just ensuring we are eating as much as we can to fuel that performance, because I can guarantee you, so you can do a deficit in a couple ways. One of them is to just slash your calories and know that by eating less, you're going to drop body fat regardless. And the other one is like, cool, it's not just about dropping that weight. It's about maintaining my muscle tissue, fueling for performance, and eating the most I can while still dropping body fat.
Yep.
And I think that thought alone is what's most terrifying to people. How much it's difficult to comprehend, and this is going to go straight into what I wanted to talk about today. I couldn't fathom when I had started training that there was an upper end of a deficit that you want to be aiming for.
Yep. One more time.
Exactly.
One more time.
A deficit is a range.
Yes.
It's not a fixed number. And it's very not even person. It's situationally dependent,
Exactly.
contextually dependent on how you're going to attack a deficit.
100%.
So dropping all your calories down, will you lose body fat on, I can't even say a set amount because everyone's size, like your deficit calories and my deficit calories might be completely different. We're two completely different body shapes. Like you're 5 foot.
I don't make 5 foot.
You're
4'11".
You're 4'11",
I'm 4'11".
sweetie. I just want to put you in a little cage and keep you. So you're 4'11". I am shorter than I want to be. Like, shorter than I think I am. But I'm like 5'4"-ish. So I've almost got like half a foot on you, which is wild. That's stay around me more often. And my baseline calories will look so different to yours. But then your energy expenditure would be so much higher because you are a face-to-face coach as well. And there are so many other different things. So we can't necessarily say that hitting a certain amount of calories is what's going to work for anyone. But we know that if we absolutely plummet our calories down, we're going to lose weight.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's no two ways about it. But the issue with that therein lies what our body composition, what our energy levels, what our health looks like afterwards. Now, when my eating habits and wanting to just lose weight started from like really, really young. Really, really reared its head in like VCE, where I remember studying for my exams on a treadmill. Like I would be on a treadmill reading my notes, studying, because I couldn't comprehend sitting down for that long. Look, I've had an ADHD diagnosis since then. But I couldn't comprehend not expending energy for those periods of time. Like, you're telling me that I'm going to sit down at school all day and then go home and sit down to study. Like, no, I need to move. So I would run on the treadmill, walk on the treadmill, and do whatever I could to get my energy expenditure
How
up.
frustrating would that have been when you were eating fuck all, doing all this cardio, so just exhausting, depleting yourself.
Yeah.
And then still not seeing the results that you want.
Yeah, it was horrifying to think of. And like I went through it. Like after that I did find the gym, but I didn't adjust my habits. And I've spoken about this on the podcast before, I think, but I used to try, and so I would have like a Fitbit at the time, and whatever it says, like whatever I consumed in my fitness pal, I would just try to burn for the day.
Yeah.
So I had this really toxic relationship, but it wasn't that. It was truly a lack of understanding.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't until I was just trying to eat as minimal as possible, be as small as possible. My real big slap in the face. So I got my lupus diagnosis, which did not, obviously, under fueling does not help an autoimmune condition. But then for me, it was, I did my ACL playing netball. I have such a vendetta against the sport. I hate netball so much. I hate it so much. What do you mean I can't dribble and run? But I hate it so much. So I ruptured my ACL, LCL, MCL. I just did my full knee. Meniscus flipped over, torn, the whole thing. Yeah, did the whole kit and caboodle in that. And when I saw the surgeon, after my assessment and my MRI and whatever. Actually, they didn't know what I did until I got into the surgery because I didn't bother to do an MRI because it was so evidently fucked. Great times.
Was anything popping out?
No. In fact, it was like a balloon. It was a balloon, but because I could walk on it, I didn't think it was that bad. I could walk, I could run, I could do everything. I just couldn't pivot. The second I'd pivot, like anyone that's done their ACL knows that feeling of when your knee slides and it's so bad. It's so bad.
My hands are weak.
Yeah. Yuck. But spoke to the surgeon, and upon like the assessment, he had told me, and this was my moment that changed everything for me. I couldn't have my surgery until I had sufficient muscle tissue because in recovery, I was going to atrophy anyway. I was going to lose muscle in recovery because you're in a boot. Like you can't weight bear. You can't do anything initially with your quads and calves. And he said that I had insufficient muscle tissue to actually be able to recover from this. Like it would be putting me at more risk if I got my surgery straight away.
Huge.
And I was like, fuck you mean? So that prompted me. He gave me some like a couple like guidelines of like, you know, if I were you, so your warm-ups will now be on the bike at the gym. But like put some resistance on it. So understanding that I didn't have none of this. Then it was, you know, leg press, leg extensions, and what I could with that. And from there, I found the barbell. Fell in love with the barbell pretty quickly. Yes, failed my first ever empty barbell bench press. 20 kilos came down onto my chest, and my partner at the time was like, it's not moving, is it? And I couldn't press 20 kilos. But that was how I found it. That was how I got into the gym and changed from cool, I can't train to be less and I can't move to be less anymore. I need to lock in here because my health is quite literally depending on it.
Yeah.
And I was very fortunate that you know, changed that side of the relationship for me. And I was like, so if I want to grow that, I have to eat more. I have to throw my Kayla Etsinas bikini body guide in the bin. Stop doing leapfrogs and burpees and ski jumpers.
We've all been there.
Yes. Raise your hand if you're personally victimized by Kayla Etsinas and Ashy Binds. So that was kind of like how that was my click moment as like, cool. To look the way I want to look, which was I wanted to be like the toned girlies on the front of the Oxygen magazines.
Yeah.
I needed to actually grow because if I kept losing fat, there was nothing underneath it anyway.
What a pivotal moment that would have been.
100%. Being told that I wasn't, and I was like a healthy looking girl.
On that, just because you're small don't mean you're healthy.
Oh, 100%. Like my mum always like makes this joke now. Like my mum only told me like last month for the first time ever. She was like, oh, you've like grown legs. Because no shit. My kneecaps were always wider than my femurs. Like I have long legs as it is.
Yes, you do.
I looked like a flamingo. Like I was exclusively leg.
Yeah.
And my legs just had no muscle on them. That it was just like a little stick figure. So, but clothes fit me well. I looked healthy. I was active. I did all of those things. I was playing netball. I was, fuck netball. But like I was doing that stuff and still I wasn't healthy enough.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it made me feel like a geriatric because it like dead set, like that's what stops the elderly from getting their surgeries. It's like, well, your bone mineral density and your recovery from this won't be adequate. And yeah, so it was like a backhand across the face for me. What was your shift? Do you have a moment or was it a period of time? Like what changed it for you?
It was probably two key pivotal moments. One of them was when year 7.
Lovely. So what, 12?
Yeah. Young.
Yep.
Never even thought about body image ever. And so when I went to high school, everyone was like, oh, different. And there was this idea about metabolism just floating around. So I was like, oh. And I was a fit kid, loved to move, loved to play sports. So I was like, I must have a fast metabolism. Whatever the fuck that meant at the time, I was like, I can eat whatever the fuck I want. And over the years, it was a bit of like mental health. Grandparents on dad's side passed away. It was just a whole bunch of other stuff. And then my movement would go down, but the food quality would still be shit and high. And I didn't click at the time where I was like, oh, it's not that I had a fast metabolism. It was because all of my lifestyle choices with my food at the time, because I was leaning heavily into mum's cooking at the time. It worked out really well balanced. And then I thought, oh, there's something now wrong with me. It wasn't until that I understood, like, no, it's because you eat like shit.
Yeah.
Now you're not moving.
Yeah.
Stress is high. High school's just stressful in general.
Yeah. I think, like, on that note of like metabolism, I see it time and time again in a couple different populations. So if we look at the girlies coming out of high school where your meal times are kind of controlled.
Yes.
I think a lot of people do tend to undereat. But if, we're talking at least active kids or active people, you're forced to do sport till at least like say 15. Like you're forced to do physical activity of some sorts. You've got recess and lunch. I know a lot of kids do skip breakfast, but so say breakfast, recess, lunch, after school, dinner, like you've got multiple opportunities where you're kind of being watched to eat throughout the day. And then you're active, you're moving around, you're walking around to and from school, bus stops, whatever it is.
Class, yes.
Yep, after school activities if you're still in sports and whatnot. And then you go to uni.
Yeah.
And you start drinking. Well, if that's not already happening from high school, but you start drinking, you start partying, you have a lot more autonomy over your schedule. Food quality tends to go to shit because we're eating cheaper in uni anyway. A lot of that stuff tends to happen, and then you see the 21 to 24, 25 where people feel like they've blown out and their metabolism isn't what it was anymore, and then the women are heavily going into deficits even further.
Yeah.
And like you kind of see it happen with everyone. And then on the other side of things, it's like, oh my God, but like my boyfriend's metabolism, like he can just eat whatever he wants. And it's like, yeah, that man's up at like 5 a.m. being physical. Like he's got a like laborious job. He is a laborer. He is physical from AM to PM, and then he trains too. Whereas if you're seated all day and all you do is train, you're still sedentary.
That's right.
So it's so interesting. And then those guys are like, I'm a hard gainer. It's like, no, you're under eating. You actually have a higher calorie intake. You need a higher calorie intake than you think. So it's so interesting how because it was very much a sign of the times, metabolism, like, and even like still it's how like my mum and like that generation will still speak. It's like, well, yeah, it's just where your metabolism's at, not understanding how much of an influence
external factors have on that.
Correct. Like how much is actually in your control of that.
So too much.
Ridiculous. So that was one of your moments?
Yes.
What was the other one?
The other one would be properly stepping into the weight room. So whether that was around dumbbells and the barbell as well.
Yeah.
That year was before that. I was probably playing around in the gym, exercising.
I did Zumba.
Oh, really? I did that once for like a gym class in school.
I did it after school.
You'd slay. You would have smashed it. You would have kicked the instructor off. Like, guys, we're taking this class now.
I used to be a lot scared of being too much when I was younger. Yeah. Down to like how I used to dress, whatever. I was just very much like just trying to be palatable to everybody.
Blend in.
Yep. Stand out, but like in a way that everyone would want me to.
Yeah.
But Zumba was elite. I used to go with a couple of my girlfriends after school, We would study and then we'd go to Zumba together.
Fuck yeah.
Kind of feel like we should do that. Kind of feel
What
like
we're actually doing afterwards, Tam.
next session that we record with Tam, we're getting Ben and Jason to a Zumba class. Fuck Reformer. Everyone does the boys do Reformer. Fine.
Yeah.
I want to see them do Zumba. What a little segue. Okay. But yes, stepping into the gym,
Yeah.
barbell,
that
dumbbell.
year of touching and actually learning what intensity meant. I was like, I'm pushing hard. I'm sweating.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Like, I'm not pushing hard enough.
Yeah.
That was a big game changer. But in the same sense, in that year, was the transformation that I was looking for in terms of physique.
Yeah.
That everyone chases that toned, muscular, slightly bit of a build. There, it wasn't until I introduced weights into my life.
Right. I think
that brought it together.
Yeah, I think like bridging that gap. And like it's always going to be knowledge. It's always going to be knowledge that bridges that gap from I really want to look like her. I really want to look like her too. And I know the guys have spoken about this on here before, but it's like if I do what they do, I won't end up looking like them.
No.
But I can use what they do as a blueprint.
Yeah.
Which is, can be troublesome with social media and influencers posting workouts like, come do my leg day with me. That's not your leg day. Or come and do, I've recently heard a lot more about it's like, come do my grocery shopping with me. And like, you stack the trolley with whatever it is and it's all for content because it's like, I don't even eat that anyway.
Yeah.
And I feel so naive still. Like I know that people lie about this stuff and it's still valuable content. It's still good meal ideas and whatever. And it's still a lot of the time good training sessions.
Yeah.
But it's just bridging the gap of understanding like it's the consistency and doing that consistently and
collectively. Because what you see in that one post doesn't account for the progress that they're making as a whole. Because there's so many other factors they haven't included in that one segment.
And I think like obviously plug, but like I absolutely think that if you're struggling with that by yourself, like getting a coach to help take the guesswork out, but not blindly follow your coach, ask the questions and ask why. Like I think that was one of the biggest game changers for me. So I was super fortunate that the year I had my surgery was the year that I had left uni and studied PT and became a PT. And so within 12 months of getting an ACL, MCL, LCL knee reconstruction, I scored a double body weight. So within that 12 months. Now, I walked into the gym, as I said, like I couldn't push up. I couldn't press an empty barbell. When I was younger, I couldn't get my next belt in karate because I couldn't do 20 push-ups.
That's a lot though. That's insane. That is
so could have been more of a weapon if I knew how to. Yeah. My mum got me my first PT at 15 actually. I was under 16, maybe even younger, 14. Because I was like pretty good at basketball, but I couldn't pass the ball far because I had no power. And mum was like, we need to change.
Whatever's going on.
Can you get stronger? Continue. Love you, mum. But yeah, so I had like stepped into the gym, found the barbell, wasn't very strong with my upper body, but the first time I deadlifted like 80 kilos. And it was just like from nothing. I would love to look back at what that deadlift looks like. Yeah. Because there's a reason why my erectors look like a stegosaurus's back. Because I'm pretty sure that's all I use. I'm pretty sure.
Nothing.
I just bend and snapped every deadlift ever. But
Find it. It's in there. It's in the archive. Find it.
I'll have to. My first ones wouldn't be there, but I would have some really old ones that just like, I have to post them on my story later. So embarrassing in my squats. Oh my God. But I look back at that and it does become like this little addiction. Like you see the weight go up on the bar and you do that. However, if it wasn't for forming that little addiction, I wouldn't have learnt the lesson that no matter how many times you told it to me, food fuels performance, didn't mean anything until I missed a lift or I missed a couple of weeks of progression, and it was due to things I could control, like eating shit or not eating before I trained, or saying things like, I don't like the feeling of eating before I train in the mornings because I'm too tired to eat and no one wants to eat at 5 a.m. and eat. And like The Office, just look into the camera. But it's all of those where I learnt the correlation because I physically experienced it.
Yeah.
When you eat enough, training is better. When training is better, your numbers progress.
It's not magical.
It's not magic.
No.
It's not. It took me another, probably until I had Parker, to learn even more and, have it fully set in that the food quality matters too. So back then it was just eating enough. And like in the powerlifting world, it can be particularly back then, like I'm talking like 2016-ish, it was very much a like weight moves weight. And I'm sure there are still a lot of people that are like that, but I'm disconnected enough from the powerlifting world. But it was like, well, if you weigh more, you lift more. And like that applied to like a lot of the super heavyweights and little, I don't know what I was then, like 67 to 72s, like one of those weight classes. It was just like, well, that applies to me too. So if I eat more like that, then I'm just going to lift heavier. And it definitely got to a point of diminishing returns where I wasn't happy with how I looked. I wasn't happy with how I was performing, like all of those things. But it's so like, there's obviously no playbook as to how we learn these lessons and how we do this stuff ourselves. But my God, if I didn't find the barbell, not only would my like knee surgery, like, I mean, it could have happened without the barbell, sure. But the lessons I learned from the barbell about self-care, it was like, cool, if you, even without having a coach there, it was like, I was very fortunate. I had a great coach from almost the second I touched the barbell. I ended up working with her as well, like employer. And she was the first structured strength training program that I followed. So it was just like learning that it's like, cool, if the program is the same every week, but the food is the variable, then you'll be more consistent in your progress of the repeatable training program if your food is more consistent.
Yeah.
And then I applied the food to the training program. From there, it was like water and hydration.
Yes.
It was the sleep. It was understanding how they're all linked.
Layer by layer.
Correct. And that's like the applying everything at once.
Yes.
Seldom works because it's too overwhelming. And you have to have an understanding, a true, deep, actual understanding, not hear the words, but understand why those things happen. Why your food affects your performance. Why the same repeatable training program is successful.
Yes.
And once that clicks, there's just no going back. Like,
no.
Could you imagine not meal prepping, or could you imagine not knowing roughly, because we go through periods where we don't track or whatnot, but could you imagine not knowing roughly how much to eat before you train, or what your training would look like for the week?
I know, because I've done that enough now for a period of time, I know exactly if my training feels off, I can pick, it was sleep. Not because I didn't have anything to eat before.
Yeah.
Like, you can just pick it out because the variables, like you said, are so consistent, trackable, you know what to expect, and it gives you this outcome. When one of those things are off, you're like, no, it's this. It's not, I think, it's like, no, you know it's this.
Yeah.